good afternoon, and welcome to Empowering Moments with your host, Rev T. Glad to have you all with us on this afternoon, and we have a wonderful dialogue that we're going to have for you. So let's get ready to do something.
Welcome to the Empower Room for Empowering Moments with your host, Timothy Hughes. Empowering Moments is brought to you by Empower Media, LLC, where we empower you, parents, and the entire community with transformative information to move mind and spirit to a higher state of well-being. So welcome to the Empower Room, and let's get started.
All right. Again, we want to welcome you to Empowering Moments and welcome to the Empower Room. I am your host, Reverend Timothy B. Hughes in Div, and we ask that you please like our page, subscribe to our YouTube page as well. Send an emoji. We're also on X as well and expanding our platform. So please let us know what you think about the show and share it wherever you can as well. We have remodeled the Empower Room, and hope you like it. And we also playing around with the format of the Empowering Moments that we do as well. So hope that you'll enjoy the change of that as well. All right. So Empower Media LLC is an empowerment entity, and we empower community through social and digital media, book publishing, programs, and speaking engagements. We have over 25 years of experience. Our website is MPWR Media LLC 1. And to give you an idea of some of our presentations that we do provide, we do presentations on cultural diversity. Where do we go from here? Based on the book of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, Wisdom for Young Men. We do a presentation for that as well. Parent empowerment and helping parents to empower their young people to do the very best they can educationally and dealing with conflict resolution. Youth empowerment, dealing with conflict resolution as well, and dealing with career exploration and dealing with who they are as a human being. And academic career exploration also is one of the other modules that we do as well, and we customize it to fit whatever the environment may be. So feel free to reach out to us at MPWR Media LLC1.com. Feel free to reach out to us on our website, and we'll be more than happy to get back with you in regard to setting up a consultation and getting to realize what is it that you're looking for that we'll be able to assist you with. All right, so that is what Empower Media LLC is partly about. We also do publications as well, which we're going to get into a little later. But we have this format to discuss cultural highlights, consciousness, and civic concerns, pretty much. So all the C's, as you can see, we're dealing with cultural highlights, consciousness, and civic concerns. So with that, culturally, I would like to lift up the remembrance of the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. It was kind of interesting this week. I did not see much coverage of that on the news this week, which I found to be interesting, where normally there is more coverage and more news coverage in regard to the remembrance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. When I was just 7, if I'm not mistaken, when he passed, and the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King's life still resounds today in so many ways, as we are faced with so many different things facing our country and our world in regard to the nonviolence philosophy that Dr. King was promoting before he was assassinated. So I want to definitely lift up the family the Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s family, his daughter, his son. We also remember the loss of their brother Dexter about, I think, almost a month ago. Unfortunately, he passed. And then I think they had another relative that passed as well. I believe their aunt passed within the last couple of weeks, if not mistaken, on that. So I want to definitely keep the King family in our prayers, and to be mindful and thankful, and be thinking about what his life meant to us. Again, I was just a little child, didn't know, of course, what was going on during that time, but the impact that he had on my life inspired me when I was pastoring in St. Louis County to do a Dr. King celebration on his birthday. The entire time I was co-pastoring there in the Bell Fountain Neighbors community at Freedom's Chapel United Church of Christ, where we actually had Dr. King celebrations that had brought the entire community together to celebrate Dr. King. So just want to make sure we lift that up, and don't forget the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All right. All right. So consciousness. I have an outstanding guest with us on today. Is my good friend, my business partner from St. Louis, my partner in crime, if you will, in regard to community involvement and doing community work there in the St. Louis area. And it is none other than Minister Derrick A. Robinson, aka D. Rob. What's going on, D. Rob?
How you doing there, Reverend T?
All right, my brother. How you doing, man?
I am doing quite well.
Awesome.
Quite well.
Awesome, man. So, we've been talking, and we're going to get into it a little bit deeper on a specific incident that really got me, that made me call you for sure. But I had shared on the show a few weeks back in regard to how we need to, take time to reflect on who we are as a people, because of how we are perceived and portrayed in the media and this and so on and so forth. So to kick this off, first tell us about yourself and where, your context and your family dynamic, if you don't mind.
Well, I always say my name is Derrick A. Robinson. I'm a man of African descent, born and raised in one of the last African-American townships. It was called Kinloch. Kinloch was one of the last of the African-American townships here in the United States. That's where I got my being. That's where the community in which I was raised. We were raised just like, we always say, just like the rest of America. We had our own everything in our township, our own movie theaters, our own gas stations, grocery stores, retail stores, clothing shops, post office. We were just like any other community. Our parents went to jobs every day. Basically, we had no welfare in our township. It was actually 0.012%. People don't even know that.
Right.
Every household was literally going to a job every day. And we did sports, but we also did the library book club. We would run down there on Saturday mornings fast, and we would run into the football and the baseball fields, because it was always who could read the most books, who was going to be the brightest and the smartest. Mm-hmm. That's what we believed in, and that's where our parents raised us. They raised us to believe in ourselves, understand education, understand that there was a purpose in life. And that's where I grew up. And so when I hear people say things that, well, African-American people, we don't do this and I don't understand. I don't understand when people make the point of, well, Black people don't work together. Well, if that's the case, how did you get out of slave? How did you get the right to vote? Right. If I'm not mistaken, African Americans have been coming together civil rights wise
Mm-hmm.
for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing it in Africa
Mm-hmm.
when they
Yes.
came and stole our land,
Mm-hmm.
took our science, our
Mm-hmm.
technology,
Mm-hmm.
when they took our math, when they took our medical information, when they
Mm-hmm.
took the land we own, when they took the uh, government systems that we started. You know, we've always been fighting and working together. And no matter what they did, they never could keep us down. Even after they foolishly brought us over here into and enslaved us, because we were human beings, we weren't slaves, we were enslaved. They
Right.
brought us over here to America, and they tried. When slavery was over, we built the largest number of suburbs in the United States at the time. We had one of the largest number of people going into Congress at the time. They still couldn't keep us down. And what did they do? They had to come up with this Jim Crow. They had
Right.
to still try to steal our land.
Right.
They went across the United States, and it's well documented, burned down every township, every city. There were a whole lot of quote unquote Black Wall Streets in
Mm-hmm.
America at the time.
Right.
We had a
Right.
lot of different townships where we had a lot of things going, like Langston, Oklahoma. But
Mm-hmm.
we had some of the greatest suburbs, very neat, very clean.
Right.
We were used to building because that's what we did in Africa.
Right.
You know, I even have to tell people now that, like the man down there in, what's the gentleman down in Florida who wants to bring out some of the good things that came out of slavery. And one of the things he used was saying about the blacksmith.
Right. Right.
Well, Reverend T, that's
Right.
kind of crazy because the blacksmith, we invented that in Africa centuries ago.
Right. Right.
We were called I think it was called Huduchi.
Mm.
And that meant it was talking about the fire.
Mm.
We were people of fire. And that fire, because we use fire for everything. We looked upon fire as a beautiful thing.
Right.
And we use it to make metals, tools, and everything. So
Right.
we've been doing we were blacksmith for centuries. So
Right.
they didn't teach us anything when we came over here that we didn't already know.
Right. We didn't come
They
over
didn't teach us. They didn't teach us anything. We grew the crops because they couldn't grow the crops.
And you know, I'm glad you said that, because in relation to the crops, that's why they were so plentiful, because of the expertise of those that they enslaved
Exactly.
to maintain the crops. Hello.
Look, not only maintain them, they couldn't grow anything in a lot of those fields until we brought the science of that over here.
Right.
Remember, Africa was so plentiful that we ran large parcels of land, just like a corporation does today. We had our own money bartering system. I'm sorry, we had NASDAQ and all that stuff going on in Africa at the time. But people don't want to talk about that because that means that would make them out of a liar when they called us savages. We weren't savages, we were savaged. Let me just be clear on that.
All right.
We were not savages, we were savage.
Yes, indeed.
It was the uncivilized people of the European nations that was up that were in what we call the upside down, continent anyway. Even though we say up is north, really it was flipped. The southern part of Africa is really the northern part of Africa, and the northern part of the world is really the southern part. But we won't get into that. But what we will get into is the fact that they have too many times we have let them poison us and make us think that we're the persons who don't have anything. And we didn't buy into it. Even after slavery, again, we kept building our own suburbs. They burned them down. That didn't stop us. We still kept going. Our children were getting inferior books. We were still going to colleges.
Yes.
We were still taking them to historical Black college. They were still doing well.
Yeah, and in fact, there were historical Black colleges being founded even before the Emancipation Proclamation. from
Before the thank you,
that's right.
thank you,
That's,
Reverend T.
that's right.
Before the Emancipation Proclamation, we were building our own schools
That
then,
still exists today. That
and
still exists.
still exist today,
Exactly.
because we realized this is who we were. We were people of a learned nature. We were
Right.
used to learning. So
Right.
this thing that they want to paint the picture that we weren't used to reading and writing, well, it's well documented now that Africans did have their own writing system. Matter of fact, we can do the simple thing, go inside the, those places over in Kemet. I'm sorry, they call it Egypt. But, Kemet, which is, the other part of Nubia. But we call it Egypt now, right? But it was Kemet. But in those tombs, those Africans, we have plenty of writings, pictures and drawings that are actually, it's an actual language. I want to call it Mafaduchi language, I believe it. I think I'm pronouncing that word right. If I'm butchering that, forgive me. But you can look it up. MFUDUNDISHI. But you can look it up. That was a language, and that language was a written language, kind of like the Asians and their letters and how they do their letters.
Right.
Africans had the same thing. Ours involved sometimes little small pictures that had meanings to them. Right? A bird might have a meaning. A little piece of bread might have a meaning. It might be a letter, like A or T or I. So we've had a written language for centuries. And because of that, they wanted to say that we were ignorant, but we were not ignorant. And so over here in the United States today, we have to start realizing, let's stop talking about the negative thing of African Americans. And we as African Americans have to start talking our positives.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
we do great things just like they do great things. We've been doing great things as long as and longer than they've been doing great things. We talk so much about stop saying we don't work together, because we do work together, right? We work together for the right to vote. We work together to get affirmative action. What was affirmative action really? Affirmative action was not something to give somebody a job because they were Black. Affirmative action was to make sure that that person who happened to be African American, who was more qualified than the Caucasian American, who should have got the job but wouldn't get the job because of his skin color and because of his culture. That's what affirmative action was all about. Not to give the quote unquote weaker person a job.
Yeah,
so we need to stop painting a bad picture.
That's true. That's true. In fact, there was someone who just was on a news show I was listening to earlier this week that said the exact same thing that you said. And that's sad because of what we're up against right now in regard to these false narratives that we're dealing with today. So I know we're dealing with, for example, we're dealing with. I call the current narratives of today dealing with Black Lives Matter and how it's been to be something negative when it's not. It's a reality that Black lives do matter. And in this context, it has been set up to as if Black lives don't matter. But then what happened was it got flipped so that people became fearful of Black Lives Matter, thinking it was some kind of almost like a hate group of some sort.
Exactly.
And then we went to critical race theory is another one that pops up. So critical race theory is something that's only taught in certain law schools in a law from a law perspective. But what happened was it got spun and spun and spun and spun and spun to be able to be so big that what was created out of that was policies and laws that helped to marginalize people, Black and brown folk.
They tried to make the critical race theory, which was as you say, that was an academic theory based from a law perspective.
Yes, sir.
So then we tried to parallel that with education, because that's what they did. They made they paralleled to education, And then they try to use that as an excuse to say, see, we don't need to do this in education. No, no, no. Those are two different things. When we're talking about teaching history, we're talking about teaching facts.
Right.
We're talking about teaching facts when we teach the facts that, oh, Africans did have their own language. We're talking about teaching facts when we say, oh, African Americans were beat, lynched, and killed on the daily because of the racism and the color of their skin. Oh, African Americans were the first to build universities over in Europe. Oh, they did have calculators were invented in Africa. So when you start teaching history and facts and telling information about us, that's what they want to use this critical race theory so they can go ahead and they want to erase our culture, period. They want to erase two things, our culture, and they want to erase what they did to our culture.
And that goes to the other two items that are up on the screen too, as relates to woke and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Exactly.
So, and just here in Texas, there were like 20 something employees of one public university here in Texas that lost their jobs because they had to eliminate their DEI department because the governor has mandated that DEI is not allowed
relevant
anymore in state universities.
It's not relevant anymore.
Right.
Why do we need diversity? Well, let's see next time when you get ready to hire that person, are you going to give us that same weak excuse? Well, they were qualified. Oh, yeah? Well, what about the African-American one who had, 2 degrees in human resource management, a master's and a bachelor's? Oh, also did a particular program at major corporations involving human resource and personnel development, but yet they weren't qualified for the job that you had. You said that they didn't have enough experience, but yet the person you hired only had a bachelor's degree and it was their first job. Help me to understand that. And the only big difference really was the other difference in them was the color of their skin.
Right.
They didn't even interview well, but you gave them the job because they were white.
Right.
So, and we have to start saying these things. We can't be afraid to, we're going to insult someone. No, this is not about insult. This is about facts.
True.
This is about what I call social mediation. And in social mediation, especially when you mediate in corporate America, we have to make sure that we're bringing out the facts.
True.
And it's not who the person is that dictates who's right or wrong. It's the facts of the situation. And the facts of the situation are when African Americans were going in for jobs and positions, they were denied because of the color of their skin, not because they weren't qualified.
Right.
Matter of fact, most times they had more qualifications than the other person. But because you didn't want an African American in that position, you didn't hire them. And you wanted to try to cover it up. And we couldn't cover it up because the data dictated exactly what you did. The data said, the numbers said that who you hired and based on the qualifications you were looking for, the data said you should have hired these people. And when asked, why did you not, you really couldn't give any solid answers.
Yeah.
So therefore, we really have to start understanding that we have to start preaching the positive about our culture and stop preaching the negative. There's as many whites who are doing bad on welfare, relatively speaking, as African Americans. Let's stop. And the data shows that there's many African Americans who work together, relatively speaking, as whites that are working together. Let's stop telling that story because we don't talk about all the blacks who are working together, the ones who work together to make sure you could do that these young blacks can do what they're doing today. Is because of how those older blacks were working together.
Right. And just like
But
we,
your young one said, he says, we never worked together. You don't know what you're talking about, young fella, young
right,
lady,
right,
because you've been brainwashed.
right,
Think
right,
about what you're saying before you say it.
right,
How is it that you got the right to vote if they weren't working together?
right.
Nobody gave you that. They didn't say, oh, we're just going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Read your history and understand it.
Important. Just like I have up here current narratives, but I should say current false narratives is what it really should be. And we're just kind of constructing the realities in regard to this. So we're kind of dealing with perceptions and misperceptions in this dialogue. For those of you all are watching today, this is Minister Derrick Robinson, aka D-Rob, with us from St. Louis, my business partner and partner in crime, and we have been on the battlefield for a long time. So I'm so glad to have him with us for sure in regard to this dialogue. And I wanted to switch the conversation because the reason I had reached out to you, D-Rob, was one of the, for those of you all that don't know, we were involved in just about every school district in the St. Louis metropolitan area a few years back. And there was a situation that occurred in the Hazelwood School District that, as a result of what recently happened with the two young ladies that were in that fight outside of the school, after school, I was really disturbed by that. Because what we did was we did an intervention to prevent retaliation for an actual shooting and a killing that took place before a spring break. And we were given the opportunity by then the principal, I believe it was Mr. Martin, at the time, to engage every student the whole week, coming through certain classrooms and engaging them on how it's important to critically think about decisions that they make, how forgiveness is important, and how to engage each other through conflict. So, with that, from when the young people went on spring break and came back, there were no retaliations that took place. And one of the things that I think is so important today is in the environment of our schools is that there needs to be outside voices outside of the teachers, administrators, and all that that can connect with the young people on a different level to help to deal with the conflicts that our young people may be dealing with in our communities.
Exactly.
So what do you think, D-Rob, in regard to that?
Well, there you hit it right on the money. We have to bring in folks who will not only understand, they have to understand several areas of a person's lifestyle, right?
Okay.
You have to understand their family lifestyle, the social issues that they're dealing with, the cultural issues they're dealing with, the academic issues they're dealing with. Because when we talk about students, those are the things we're talking about that's affecting their lives, that are going to have an effect on their lives.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen with those issues is going to tell us what's going to yield a better outcome for them. These students are dealing with a lot. So if we don't bring in paraprofessionals who can come in and help the students to deal with those things in a proper, and I'm talking about within the school system. I'm not talking about after school, because you're not going to get you're not going to get enough bodies after school.
Right.
The program has to be something that can deal, as we used to do, whole school empowerment.
Indeed.
Where we're dealing with these issues head on. A good example, the issue that happened with the young lady up here. Very unfortunate. The young lady was knocked unconscious.
Yes.
Almost lost her life.
Yes.
And there have been many fights like that after school, off the school properties, where students have set up these things, even their parents setting them up, even their parents bringing them to the fight, driving up there with them.
That's true.
This is not anything new. It's happened before, and before it was all in some others, it was all African-American students.
Mm.
I did not see this type of outpour from the community, let me be specific. I did not see this type of outpour from the white community when it was African-American students who fought after school and got beat down and had to go to the hospital.
Mm.
I didn't see this. I didn't see any judges. I didn't see any lawyers. I did not see any district attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see none of that getting involved.
Were there any preachers? Were there any preachers? Were there any preachers? Any preachers?
Preachers?
Pastors?
Let me see. Now, I will say this.
Okay.
Are there some ministers who try to work with the kids when they hear about these fights? There might be some maybe related to their church or something like that.
Okay.
There are some across the board kind of like that. Right. But do we hear it like we heard it with this one? No, we did not. And here's another fact we have to also be honest about bringing out, and I'm hoping they bring out these other facts. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, there is no reason they should be out there fighting, period. That's what I believe. I believe you got to solve your fights with your words, with your mind. That's how my parents taught me. That's how I believe in it.
Likewise.
Other than protecting yourself because you don't want to get hurt.
Right.
But going to a fight or meeting somebody, no, I don't believe in that.
Right.
However, we also have to whenever it's African Americans, here's what they ask: who was the bully? They always ask who perpetrated the fight. And the first thing they'll do is, if the person who got hurt was the bully, you know what they'll be saying? They would be talking about it. If they're Black, they talking about that person. Well, we didn't want them to get hurt. We didn't want her to get hurt. But they surely were. They were harassing those kids all the time, and they should have known at some point something was gonna happen to them. Mm-hmm. In this same issue in Hazelwood, mm-hmm. the person who got hurt was the aggressor, mm-hmm. was the bully, mm-hmm. had been harassing the other young lady, mm-hmm. had been harassing the African American young lady, mm-hmm. and it wasn't nice. Mm. She had been harassing her badly, and the girl was getting tired. Matter of fact, the African-American young lady, great student, great grades, trying to do the right things, kept getting harassed by this other young lady. And I'm assuming it was probably because of a boy. I can tell we can probably make that assumption. If I'm wrong, no problem. I apologize right here. But more than likely probably was. And now we all of a sudden we're degrading, we're trying to act, and then also the parent came to the fight. Now the parent that came to the fight, want to say they didn't, but they did.
Oh wow. Okay.
You was there.
Okay.
They got you on camera, you there.
Oh my goodness.
So all of a sudden now we want to talk about we don't want to mention anything about that.
Okay.
But if it was the other way around, they'll be talking about the bully because the bully was a Black person. They'll be saying, well, we didn't want them to get hurt, but, they asked for it. You're not going to win anything when you're trying to harass people. This other young lady should not have been harassing the other young lady. So now we want to act like this other person was just a total culprit. And that's not fair. Now we want to put them in jail and pretend like they were the only one who was doing something and that this other young lady was just a total victim. That is not true.
Interesting.
We need to make sure these facts and information needs to be brought out.
It's true.
And we need to stop look. Nobody's trying to say this should happen to the young lady. It should not have. It should not have happened to her. The fight shouldn't have happened, period.
Right. And
nobody should have been bullying anybody, period.
Right. And I saw a news report, D.R., that caught my attention was that there was a person from the neighborhood that they interviewed, and they said, well, they have fights up and down the street all the time. So as you know, we talk about the social educational environment, and it's like, okay, well, it's your job as a person in the community, in the neighborhood. Did you call the principal and say, hey, there are fights up and down the street on a regular? Can you get some SROs or some police officers or some adults to patrol up and down the street?
But hold up, Mr.
A meeting with the students to make sure that they are behaving properly.
But watch this. Watch this. What I say. If you see a fight in the neighborhood, I'm not calling the school. I'm calling the neighborhood police.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah,
we can't blame the school for a fight that happens after school.
Outside the school.
You know what they're trying to paint a picture of? Because it was a white female.
Yeah.
Because it was a white individual.
Right.
Now we want to go to, they don't have a diversity. They're having a diversity issue.
Well,
because she was white. It has nothing to do because she was white. Right. It has something to do because she was a bully who went to a fight and happened to lose in that fight. Sad to say.
Right.
But that's what happened.
Wow.
And this has nothing to do with any type of
DEI, because I know the attorney was saying that there was a DEI due to DEI, and the fight was in the school and all that. And
right. They're trying to blame the school environment is what dictated this. No, it wasn't the school environment. This happens, Reverend T.
Right.
You and I know.
Yeah, we know.
We've been in the school for 30 years. Right. This happens all the time.
All the time.
We've been having these fights.
Right.
We're working with districts right now on trying to do things to curtail these fights.
Yes, indeed.
These fights, and let's be honest, these fights and these arguments, students do what they see, right? What do they see on television all the time?
Oh, goodness.
Let's start with politics.
What
do we see in politics all the time?
Fighting.
Fighting. It's not debating.
No.
It's fighting.
Right.
It's not arguing, and it's not debating and talking over the facts. And giving out our reason of why we want to win.
Right.
They're throwing jabs at each other. They're fussing and hollering at each other.
Right.
So if that's what the students are seeing,
right.
What do you think they're going to do?
Exactly.
Now, some people will say, the students don't even watch that kind of stuff. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Because it's on everything.
On everything.
YouTube, so shoot. They got on every tube walking. So guess what? They see it. They see you.
Yeah.
So students are reacting to things they see in their neighborhoods, things they're seeing in their particular environment that they're working in, right? And they're seeing it, and they're getting it from every other source. So we have to help them to see, and some of this comes from some of those old and some from those old reality TV shows, where they was doing all that fighting.
They still
do. And then what happens? If let's say back in 2003 or 4, if you were doing it, now you pass it on to the 2010, 12, and then the 2010, 12. Now they pass it on to the 2015s. Now we're in 2023. Guess what? It just keeps going.
Yeah.
Until we finally say what we're going to do to stop this. But at the end of the day, that particular issue, we need this. It became a race issue. Sure did. When they made it one, based on the fact because it was a white female
and the black
who got hurt. Now all of a sudden, what are we going to do? All them ones you've been having with them African American kids in the neighborhood. I haven't seen none of this. I haven't seen you call for any big time meetings where you can call in all the folks from around the area and all that goody good stuff. Come on now.
Yeah, that's something. And it's sad, but I feel that there is a solution. with what
Exactly.
we did with our company. We saw a lot of solutions and helped deal with a lot of issues in not only in Hazelwood but in Rockwood School District.
Exactly.
I mean, that situation
Academic
right
and
there.
social and emotional behavior intervention.
Yes,
We,
yes,
we were saying that before it became
yes,
the buzzword,
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
right?
Yes,
We
indeed.
we were the persons who were talking about starting these different kind of rooms that they have at your schools now. Sometimes they call them social emotional behavior rooms. Some of them they call them teen connects. But we started all this here, and
Right.
we can say it because we did it. We
Exactly.
were doing it. We
Exactly.
still are doing it, no matter what. We might do it from a different trajectory,
Yeah, they're different.
but we still have to do it.
Yes.
We understand academic and social intervention within school districts, and then also, Reverend T, we also have the other part of that solution, how we get with our parents.
Yes.
We have the right message
Yes.
for our parents
Yeah.
to help our parents to realize that they're the first teachers of the child.
That's why
You are the foundational developer of your child.
Right.
How your child how the parent develops the child, parent or parents. I like parents, but if it's a parent, either one, or the guardian, whoever it is, how you develop that child is going to be 90% of what that child is going to become.
Yes,
that environment.
Yes,
if you're teaching that child right, wrong, respect, responsibility, why reading, writing, math are so important.
Right.
If you're teaching them how to think, how to ask questions, if you teach them how to be humble, kind, respectful, responsible, if they're getting all of that, 90% of them are going to do well. There's always going to be some outliers who want to, we call them the prodigal sons and daughters, who want to kind of try the outside before they realize, oh, shoot, let me go on back.
Right. That's for sure.
Then you got the same thing, right, wrong, respect, responsibility, reading, writing. For those who parents are not doing that, 90% of those children will do bad. University of Michigan African Studies Department, they did a study and they came up with the same thing, that parental foundation is what's going to be the final nail in the coffin. So we have to get back to teaching our parents how to develop our children so we can have a better product coming to school that's ready to learn.
And understand.
Ready to learn.
I like that. D-Rob, I thank you, man. I want to close it out with that point for sure. And hey, as a result of what happened at Hazelwood, I am in the process, and D-Rob and I have been in discussion. We're hoping to be able to launch some things again with much discussion over the summer and start initiating some this intervention that we've been talking about that's much needed. We've seen it work. We know it works, and we're wanting to expand it to be able to be a benefit to schools all over the country. So that's what we
want people to see.
Yes, there you go. That's why I love this brother. This brother is awesome. All right.
That social educational environment.
Yes, sir.
We want people to see.
Yes, there we go. And we're going to leave it right there. But
yes,
man, I want to thank you so much, man, for being on with us today and empowering our community, and keep doing what you're doing. And we'll be in touch, and we'll be keeping everyone aware of where they can go to get more information about what we do, because we are still on the battlefield working for our Lord. Amen. All right. So God bless, and thank you, D-Rob, so much for being with us on today. All right. Well, this has been an empowering show. I want to thank D-Rob for being on with us, and I hope you have been empowered by this discussion. This is like a discussion he and I have on a regular basis, and we talk on phone for hours and hours and hours. And not only do we talk about it, we be about it and do what we have done. And so grateful for God using us in the manner that he has. So with that, we're going to move on to civic concerns. And again, in regard to this dialogue, this conversation, it speaks to the importance of why we need to vote. I mean, if you haven't realized, there have not been a lot of bills passed because of the landlock between the two parties, pretty much. And if you have a party that is using some form of common sense and wanting to promote healthy policies, then let's make that happen by making sure that we're doing our part, because this is the United States of America and it is determined by the vote. So you do have a voice, you do have a way of participating. So please don't take that lightly. You know, as I think about the life of Dr. King, think about the various other the laws that have been passed. If it were not for certain folks being in office at the time they were in office, we wouldn't be where we are today. So let's not take this lightly. Let's do what we have to do to be able to support our community. All right. So with that, we want to also have you guys to please remember the hashtag Justice for Quincy McMillan. We are still supporting the mom, Qualisha Jones. That is her email. If you'd like to get more information in regard to what is going on with the raising of funds for award that they're wanting to raise to be able to present to people that will come forward to share what happened to Quincy McMillan in the shooting that took place, and unfortunately he was killed about 3 months ago now. So we are still looking for support for that. So please reach out to Qualisha Jones at Qualisha Jones email address there. And I know she had a fundraiser and know it was very successful. And I will be keeping in contact with the family and seeing how we can continue to support the McMillan family, the Jones family, in the loss of Quincy, who was an awesome young man who was a student at the high school I was working at in Ferguson-Florissant School District when I was in St. Louis. So want to definitely lift that up. All right. So we want to thank you all so much for being with us in the Empower Room. We thank you so much. Currently as well, we are looking to launch our Examiner Quarterly. We had 2 Examiner Quarterlies that came out last year and ready to launch one again. We're looking to preferably launch it in June or July of this year, and we will keep you posted on that. And please don't forget to go to Amazon.com and purchase your book, In the Blink of an Eye, an Out of This World Experience. And it is my testimony of an experience I had where I had a sudden death heart attack. So, I mean, that me telling you that should pique your interest to find out how did that happen, and you're here on the show. So that's what that's what this story is all about. So it's been a very inspiring read for a lot of folk, and pray that you get your copy. And thank you for those who have been purchasing the book. We appreciate it. It's also on Kindle as well on Amazon, so feel free to do that. And we've been wrestling with the book signings and trying to secure locations, and it's been a little challenging, but we pray that that we will have something secured soon. All right. So we thank you again for your support, for being with us in the Empower Room. And please check out our website again at MPWR'ing1.com. And we look forward to being with you all again next in a couple of weeks. We will be celebrating the class of 2024 in a couple of weeks. On next Sunday will be my birthday, so we're gonna do a repeat show for next week. All right, so thank you again for being with us in the Empower Room. We pray that you have a blessed rest of the week, and God bless, and have a good week, and don't forget to do something.
Thank you for joining us in the Empower Room. Hope you have received some impactful information. Please like or leave a comment. See you next week in the Empower Room, brought to you by Empower Media LLC and your host, Reverend Timothy Hughes, aka Rev T.